Willkommen zurück bei A Hand in the Darkness und ich will gar nicht lange reden, bevor wir anfangen und einfach, anfangen. The next week went by too quickly for my taste. Damien more or less let me be after class so I could spend some time with Monty and Rick in the study room trying to catch up the subjects I was behind. We also had some group assignments to do, so the afternoon passed really fast and I barely had any spare time. Even though Damien sometimes left me a note under my notebook asking me to meet somewhere hidden from the indiscreet eyes, but it was just for a kiss and a bit for groping. He also had group study with us, so it's not like we could sneak away in front of the others. And, sadly, we didn't have any other clue related to my attacks, although Damien kept saying that he was trying to get more information from the servants. It was Saturday morning. As I hadn't joined any club or sport activity, I was free to do as I pleased the whole day. At first I thought of taking the chance to ask Rick for help with my Latin, but Monty looked a bit down, so in the end, Rick and I decided to go and cheer him during his second cricket training. Really? You two are coming? That's so great! I will play as a pro today, you will see. Actually, please don't laugh, okay? I barely know the rules yet, and I might be awful at playing. Rick and I chuckled. Don't worry, this way it will be more entertaining for us. Oh, you bastard! Don't make fun of me or I'll ban you from the matches. He hit me with his towel still wet from his bath, and it really hurt. I had to use Rick as a shield, but Monty didn't seem very appeased since I couldn't stop laughing. While we waited for the training to start, they started to talk again about that Mark guy who vanished from the school the previous Tuesday. I think it's very suspicious he left the very moment you went to the kitchen to ask about him. Yes, Alex, I agree. You should go to the head teacher to inform him. Again with that, I don't even have any evidence against that guy. The head teacher will frown and think I'm just trying to stand out, and I don't want that. Besides, I can't tell him I've been in the kitchen, and that's against the rules. So, what are you going to do? There's nothing I can do. Didn't you say Damien was going to make some inquiries among the servants? I sighed, exhausted. He said so, but he still hasn't found anything. Monty frowned with concern. Then what have the you two have done all those times when you have gone together investigate? I looked away, feeling my cheeks suddenly hot, and tried to change the subject. Just talking to people, you know. Hey, said the team captain. Monty's eyes lit at seeing his captain, and he waved goodbye to us and went out to join the thick of his team, who were already starting to assemble around the captain. Rick and I stayed there for a while until the team went to the cricket ground outside, and then we followed them. It was a really nice morning, so it felt good being at the playground, and Rick and I had fun cheering our mates and laughing at Monty's pitiable hold of the cricket bat. In the afternoon, of course, it was study time. Again. After an hour or so working on our group assignment, I finally gathered the courage to ask Rick for his help with my Latin. I felt ashamed of my low level. I could hardly understand anything during the Latin lessons. And Rick was an A+ student. It was embarrassing to ask him simple questions. I didn't want him to think I was dumb, but it couldn't be helped if I wanted to pass the subject. Ah, yes, don't worry about that. Just ask me whatever you need. I sighed with relief. Thank God Rick was so easygoing and nice. Damien appeared just then in the study room's door and walked directly towards us. Hey, we agreed to meet in an hour ago, remember? We have worked on the science group assignment and we had to do it without you. Really? Well, pass me by part and I will do it on my own. Monty sighed, annoyed. That's now not how it works. Yeah, sorry about that. I'll meet you next time, alright? In fact, I have come right now only to take Alex for a while. What? I was nonplussed and embarrassed. How could Damien dare to act like that? Grab your books and come, little bird. We have something to do. Oh, ich habe tatsächlich nicht so schnell mit der Entscheidung gerechnet. Aber Ich, ich würde jetzt einfach sagen, excuse yourself, weil ich persönlich würde jetzt da nicht böse werden. Weil vielleicht hat er ja irgendwas rausgefunden wegen dem Angreifer. Deswegen würde ich sagen, excuse yourself. I looked to my friends who were watching Damien and me in confusion. I couldn't jump to follow Damien to his every whim of that I was 100% sure. But I didn't want to make him angry either, so I tried to keep a calm face and come up with an excuse. Sorry, Damien, but I have promised to finish my part of the science assignment this afternoon. Oh, ich habe das gerade falsch rum verstanden. Ich dachte, der entschuldigt sich bei seinen Freunden und geht mit ihm mit, aber gut, egal. Auf jeden Fall, ich wäre nicht böse geworden. Passt schon. What about tomorrow? You stay the Sunday at the school, right? Could we meet tomorrow? Damien flicked his tongue in annoyance. Be careful, little bird. I'm not a patient guy. And with those menacing words, he turned on his heels and left the study room. What the hell was that? Nothing, don't worry. Rick, could you please continue? Where were we? Rick hummed and focused again in the Latin grammar. I tried to return my attention to it too, but it was difficult since Damien's words kept ringing in my ears. I hope I had passed him enough to avoid being turned into the head teacher. But how could I know with Damien? I couldn't understand his reactions half of the time. That night I couldn't sleep, my mind too full of dreadful thoughts about what would happen if Damien told someone about what we were doing. Gross indecency, he had said. Was I like that? I wouldn't enjoy when Damien touched me if I wasn't. That thought made me sob. What would my mother say? Sodomites, as people call them, weren't usually sent to jail nowadays, but everybody still talked about Oscar Wilde and how he ended up with 2 years of penal labor in prison despite being famous and influential. So it was clear as daylight. If Damien spoke, I was as good as dead. Of course, the next morning I overslept. I opened my eyes, awoken by the sound of rustling my clothes by my side and saw Monty already finishing getting dressed. As he was always the last one in getting up, I guess Damien and Rick had left for the dining room a while ago. Ah, good morning. About time. At this rate, you're going to miss breakfast. I groaned, still half asleep, and tried to roll over, covering my face with the David. Monty chuckled and pulled my David down, leaving me grabbing the empty air. Let me sleep. Are you going to spend all the Sunday in bed? What a pity. I wanted to invite you to come along. My uncle's taking me to a local fair. It will be fun, I hope. I rubbed my eyes slightly more awake. All my blank thoughts from the previous night came back to my mind, and although the morning light made them look less depressive, I was still worried. Thank you, but in fact I have things to do today. I jumped out of the bed and grabbed my toiletries, a towel and a clean change of clothes. I'm going to have a bath. Do you think I will make it to breakfast? Monty smiled and gestured to his wardrobe. I have cookies if you want. Help yourself to them. Thank you very much. Have fun at the fair. Oh, I will. Take care, and... I turned to look at him from the threshold. What? You know, be careful around Damien. I nodded, suddenly serious, and left for the bathroom. After my bath, I ran to the dining hall to be served just a tea, because they were already cleaning up the remains of the students' breakfast. Sighing, I came back to our bedroom, glad to have at least Monty's cookies to eat. Monty had already left with his uncle, and Rick was most surely in the library or the study room, but I didn't have a clue of Damien's whereabouts. A couple of classmates told me they had seen him going downstairs earlier, so down I went too. There were some people in the hall coming and going, some of them talking to relatives or leaving the school with them for the Sunday. I had a glimpse of Damien at the other side of the front door. I approached him and was about to call his name aloud when I saw who he was talking to. It was that girl, Rachel, and they weren't having a pleasant conversation. I didn't mean to eavesdrop, but I didn't want to disturb the argument either. and as their voice kept raising their tone, I started to hear everything they were saying. You simply shouldn't be here, Rachel. I wanted to see you, and you haven't called for me once in a whole week. And I haven't called you today either, so why the hell are you come? That's not what we agreed. Why can't I see you today? The girl's voice was strained, but I didn't know if she was about to cry or if she was just angry. Haven't you thought that perhaps since I'm a student I could be busy studying? I mean, that's what I'm supposed to do in this school, you know? The girl remained silent, and then, after a while, she muttered something that I couldn't hear. That's it, good girl. Now, go back home and wait until I send you a note, would you? Rachel said something else, but I felt like an intruder and stepped away unnoticed, as silently as I could. I came back to our bedroom. If I could look for Damien, he could also look for me. I had barely spent half an hour tidying up my clothes and school stuff when he appeared at the door. Here you are. Someone told me you were looking for me. I nodded. He closed the door behind him and climbed to his bed, the one on top of mine. Come over. Up there? Will it hold the weight of the two of us? Damien shrugged and stretched out his arm to help me go up the ladder. Once kneeling on the top bed, I cast a hesitant look to the door. What if Rick comes back searching for a book? He's in the study room, I think, just across the corridor. Damien sighed. His face was serious, and he, in fact, looked a bit tired, not his usual nonchalant self. I only want to relax for a bit. Lie down with me, will you? I did as he told me. He slithered an arm around my shoulder and held me without a word. It was a bit unnerving being by him that way. I was used to his mocking tone and smirks, or at him jumping me as soon as he saw me in private. He didn't seem furious with me because of the previous afternoon, thank God, although with Damien I could never tell. With him, everything was like treading on muddy waters. But as a couple of minutes went by, I started to wonder if he was worried about his girlfriend. The argument surely had left him feeling down. Damien, are you angry with me for yesterday? Damien hummed. Oh, that was a yes then. You will have your punishment later. I have already planned it, so you won't get away with it. Have that in mind. I shuddered. What was he planning to do to me? At least, that meant going to the head teacher was off the table, and I also knew he wouldn't beat me. I saw you talking to your girlfriend before. So what? Is she your fiancé? He burst into laughter at my words. Who? Rachel? As if my father would allow me to marry a baker's daughter. I hadn't thought about that. Damien was the eldest son of an important politician and diplomat, so yes, it would be strange for him to marry a girl from the town. When his laughter subsided, Damien started stroking my hair and explained. Although my father didn't inherit any title, our family is one of the oldest in Britain, and we are blood related to earls and dukes in England and Wales. So when I'm to choose a wife, it will have to be someone from a family my father approves, of course. Something inside my chest knotted rather painfully. I wondered what his father would say about Damien involving himself with the son of a modest lawyer. But that's still years away, thank God, so forget about it and it come closer. He finally kissed me slowly, deeply, and sweetly. I reciprocated, but my eyes kept wandering to the door, feeling uneasy. I would die for mortification if Rick got to know what was happening between Damien and me. After a while, Damien let go of me, sighing. Okay, if you're going to be like that, I want you to go for a stroll away. Come on, let's go out. And he jumped down the bed, startled. It took me a moment to react and follow him out of the bedroom. We headed to the woods, avoiding the path and the areas closer to the school. We were some students were hanging around. I followed Damien for a while. I hadn't realized the woods were so fast, but as we hadn't found the school fence yet, I assumed we were still inside St. Michael's ground. Here's fine. Let's sit down. We sat on a piece of grass between some bushes and the tall trees that covered the sky over us. With a mischievous smirk that suited Damien better than his previous mood, he lay on top of me and started unbuttoning my shirt. I looked around, nervous, but the woods were completely silent, except for the birds and the wind in the trees. So, feeling more at ease, I accepted Damien's mouth on mine and tried to enjoy it as much as I could. After a little while, the two of us were already panting in half-heart, and when his fingers stroked lightly under my waistband, brushing my hip bones, my whole body shuddered with lust. A sudden rustle of leaves some feet away from us startled me and almost made me jump. Damien allowed his body by my side and placed his index on top of my lips, begging me silence. He didn't need to tell me. I was fully aware of our situation if he were caught. A man dressed in rough brownish clothes was passing by, smoking a cigarette, walking who knows where across the woods. I prayed that the bushes covered us enough and the man didn't turn in our direction. He treated barely a foot away from where we were hiding. Both Damien and I held our breath. I watched the man from below, from where I was lying, and I suddenly froze. Because I recognized the chin and those lips, I stayed completely still until the man was so far that we couldn't hear his steps on the leaves. Damien sighed and sat up with obvious relief. Man, that was close. What the hell was he doing here anyway? He glanced down at me and blinked. Oi, Alex, are you alright? He's gone, you can relax now. Do you know that man? My voice was trembling and weak. Why, he's the gardener. What's wrong, Alex? Tell me. I pushed my body up, resting on my forearms, and tried to breathe deeply. The man, he was the man who attacked me with a knife here in the woods. Damien opened his eyes wide and saucers. The gardener? Hold on, he's one of the new employees. This sounds more consistent now. Consistent? I stood up and started strolling in circles, nervous. I think we'll be able to research more now that we have more data, or do you want to go to the head teacher? I considered for a moment. Was it certain that my attacker had been that man? 100% certain? I shook my head. What if I am wrong and he just has a similar square chin? Imagine I sent an innocent to the police. Then we will try to be sure and find out what's happening here, alright? I nodded, feeling calmer. Damien could be difficult sometimes, insensitive, rude, egoistic, but so far he had always been reliable, and it felt fine having someone who I could rely on. Especially when I felt so confused about everything that was happening. He finally stood up as well and started walking fast, taking my hand and making me follow him. You don't mind jumping the fence, do you? What? Where are we going? Just to the other side of the fence. I'm fed up with interruptions. All we have done the whole week is hiding and avoiding being seen by chance. I want a bit of time alone with you. I blushed the roots of my hair. That sounded good and bad at the same time. We found the fence that surrounded the school's ground on the north side and jumped over it easily. It was clearly just a demarcation sign and not a deterrent for burglars. The thicket of trees was so dense that we could barely see the sky upon us. It felt colder too. He led me by the hand until we couldn't see the fence, and then he started to take his tie off. I told you I had a punishment planned for you, didn't I? Oh, that, I thought, a bit scared. I wondered what he had in mind. I feared something humiliating was going to happen. He pushed me gently until my back touched the nearest tree and then took my wrists with one of his hands. What? Shh, you will see in a moment. As I was starting to dread the time, my wrist behind the tree with his school tie. I looked at him, annoyed, while he gave me a once-over with a satisfied smirk. Okay, now what? Are you going to leave me here? What fun would that be? He came closer and untied the knot of my tie. He slipped the fabric along my collar and put my tie away inside my pocket. Then he finished unbuttoning my shirt and untucked my shirt tail. Damien, it's cold. We were in autumn after all, and the warmth of the sun didn't reach us under the trees. I could feel the skin on my chest turning into goose flesh. Damien chuckled and started unbuttoning his own shirt in quick and dexterous motions. We hadn't removed our jackets, of course, but she opened his shirt and started rubbing the bare skin of his chest against mine. It felt really good, I couldn't deny it. See, we are both the same state now. He leaned into stuck at my neck, making me shudder for different reasons than cold, and his hands spread flat against my chest. The way he was touching me made me feel slightly mortified. I don't have boobs. Damien laughed at that. I get dressed every morning in the same bedrooms, as you remember? I had noticed before. But these little nipples are charming in their own way. By saying that, he rubbed one of my nipples hard. I hissed. It hurt. Then he lowered his head a bit more and licked it, pulling his tongue against the knob, and the outcome was definitely not painful this time. I felt my nipple turning hard and purred, and my whole body went hot, suddenly ignoring the cool breeze in the woods. He rubbed it against with his finger, but now the sensation was heaty and delicious, making me gasp. He kept going while working my other nipple with his mouth, sucking on it. My knees buckled, and for the first time I was glad to be tied to the tree and unable to move much. Damien licked his lips, cleaning with his tongue. He chuckled of salvia that was starting to go down his chin. I'm not the same as a girl, but I quite like it, and his skin is as soft too. His hands wandered along my sides, stroking them with light touches. It was a bit ticklish, but it also felt good. The way his eyes drank me made me feel too exposed and self-conscious, so I had to look away. Let's see how I like the rest. And he unbuttoned my trousers to start pulling them down, leaving my bare legs to bear the coldness of the woods. Now I see why you aren't complaining much. He caressed my member over the fabric of my underwear with just a finger. I shuddered in expectation. It wasn't as hard as the other times with him, though it wasn't uncomfortable to have a tree dark digging against my back, and I felt shy and a little too helpless being undressed that way. But Damien didn't seem to mind. He kneeled in front of me on top of the brown and golden leaves of the ground that would surely stain his trousers, and pulled down my underwear until he could take it completely off my legs and feet. Before I could form a complaint for being so naked, he leaned it in until his face almost touched my middle and started touching my half erection, stroking the sticky tip with the tip of his finger, tapping it lightly. And then he lowered his head and inserted his tongue between my foreskin and the head of my dick, making me moan loudly and first my tied up hands. You like that? Did you really want an answer? Obviously not, because he came back to tease my foreskin at once, until my shaft was so hard and full that the foreskin was stretched and hidden behind the heat. He resorted to licking the slit and then swallowing the whole hard, rubbing it with his tongue inside his mouth. I was sweating and panting by them, my eyes fixed on his mouth and the delicious sensation it was providing me. He glanced up to look at me and grinned, and I wished my hands were free so I could pet his hair. Damien started stroking the rest of my dick with his hand, with skilled and firm movements, and I almost closed my eyes to better enjoy it, but in the end I decided to keep them open, entranced, and I was by Damien's erotic face. He let his hand wander down to my full and heavy testicles, and I sighed it, feeling as some of the tensions that was relieved. Then he kept caressing me down there, my groin and the inside of my thighs, and it complemented nicely what his mouth was doing to my dick. I hummed in pleasure, until one of his fingers started to prod against my asshole. Damien, don't touch there, it's dirty. You just had a bath 2 hours ago, right? Ignoring my wrinkly, he kept prodding until first the tip of his fingers was inside my hole, and shortly afterwards all the first phalanx was in. Please, stop it! He chuckled, amused. I could have kicked him in the face right then, so mortified I felt. You really don't like it? Endure it a bit more, I'm sure we'll get used to it. But it feels like I'm going to poop. I bit my lips, deeply embarrassed. I felt so uncomfortable that my erection had subsided to half-mast. Focus on your front, little bird. If you don't like it in a while, we will stop. If you say so, I thought, but his words gave me some comfort. I tried to do as he has told me and turned my attention to my dick, ignoring the uneasiness of my bottom. It was difficult to focus on the pleasure. I started to be too conscious of the cold breeze and the bulky tree against my back again. It's too dry. He leaned back and took something from his pocket, grinning at me. What's that? Hand cream, but I have used it before. Other parts of me, and it feels nice. I thought it would be useful for this situation. Did he give so much thought for this? So it was true, he had planned it beforehand. He dipped 2 fingers inside the cream pot and left it on the ground by his side. Then he inserted those fingers inside me, way more deeply than before. They found almost no resistance now and slipped inside in one go. I groaned loudly. It was not painful, not really, and the sensation of being about to poop had vanished, but even though it was the strangest sensation I had ever had. I was about to ask Damien to stop for good, but then his fingers brushed the spot inside of my canal and my whole body gave a little jump. What was that? He grinned at me, surprised, and started moving his fingers inside of me until he found that spot again. I cried out, half in pleasure, half in astonishment. Yes, what was that? I wondered. I didn't know such a spot inside my butt existed. It felt strange, a barely there pleasure that made me ache for more. Do it again. Perhaps if you ask for it kindly. Please stop mocking me and touch me more. Please, Damien. He chuckled and repeated the same motion again and again, while his other hand bumped my dick that felt heavy incredibly, stretched right then, and I realized I was about to come already. I bucked my hips, chasing my orgasm, but Damien chose that moment to stop and wipe his hand on my tight. Damien! Why was he stopping right then? Was that his planned punishment, leaving me desperate and begging for more? Don't be so impatient. I want to play too. His words made me feel a bit ashamed and selfish. He only had an orgasm with me the first time we fooled around in our bedroom, but tied up like that, I couldn't touch him no matter how much I wanted to return the favor. Damien unbuttoned his trousers and let them drop to his thighs, taking out his hard-on. My eyes rested on it as I licked my lips. Perhaps he wanted me to use my mouth, as he was doing to me a moment ago. I watched intently, the white and leaking head while he dipped his fingers again in the cream pot and spread the cream through his legs in hard and long strokes. For a moment, he even closed his eyes tightly with a strained face. I was aching to join my hands to his and stroke the dick and then lick it and put it in my mouth. I wondered how it would feel, and it made my mouth water. He watched me through half-lidded eyes, smiling. Do you want it? I nodded, too gone to deny it. Then you will have it right now. Then he grabbed one of my thighs and pushed it up and wide opened. I gasped in surprise. My other thigh followed suit, and I had to hook my ankles behind his waist to avoid falling down. What are you doing? Shh, relax. And there were suddenly 2 hands grasping my buttocks and spraying them open, and a blunt hard shape pushing between my legs. No way. Was he really trying to put his dick inside of my asshole? It would never fit. It was huge. Oh. The head suddenly entered, and all the air seemed to vanish from my lungs. Damien pushed onwards with a grunt, and the pressure of his lungs advanced some inches through my insides. I panicked and started kicking him with my joined feet. That thing shouldn't be there. The plate was made to expel things, not to allow something entering. Does it hurt? His breath was labored, and a layer of sweat covered his neck. I guess I was more or less in the same state. Hurt? I tried to discern what exactly I felt, among all the overwhelming sensation I was experiencing right then. It burned, and I felt stretched to the maximum and about to explode. I wanted it to end already, to pull that intrusion out. Damien studied my face for a moment, and then he stepped back, pulling my whole body with him, and started thrusting his cock inside of me with forceful and fast shoves. I howled, and I couldn't mind less if someone heard me or not. I tried not to panic, thinking that he surely wanted to finish this as soon as possible. I bit my lips and tried to relax and ignore the overwhelming feeling of being filled, stretched, impaled. Soon there were tears in the corner of my eyes. Just a bit more. Hold on. He adjusted my weight on his hips, changing slightly the angle, and when he plunged again, his dick rammed against the strange spot inside of me. I cried out and bucked my hips, surprised by the sudden rush of pleasure that made my whole body tingle. More. Damien frowned in surprise, but did as I begged him, thrusting again in that angle, making me wail and wriggle. His eyes never left my face as he kept rolling his hips and pushing himself inside and out, inside and out. It was amazing, and it was too much. I wanted the pleasure to never end, and at the same time I couldn't take it anymore. As if reading me, Damien let go of one of my thighs and wrapped his hand around my painful and throbbing member. He pumped it hard, just twice, and at last I was able to release the incredible amount of pressure that I had been holding those last minutes. My orgasm seemed to last forever, and I felt it on my whole being, leaving my mind blank and my body exhausted. Damien then released my limp dick and fastened his pace, grunting loudly against my shoulder, thrusting and lunging deep and hard until he finally stilled with his eyes closed and that already familiar face of his during his peak. And although my mind was clogged and exhausted, I felt satisfied at seeing him achieve the pleasure.